decreases the amount of antibodies made by the TH2 system, and hence prevents autoimmune reactions. Well, hello again. So I'm now in my 9th post in this series of autoimmune disease epidemic and what we can do to prevent these diseases, what's causing them, how they can be identified early, and how we can literally cure them once we detail the causes. So if you haven't heard the previous posts, I'm going to suggest, if this is the first one you've heard, fine, listen to this, but go back and listen to all the previous posts because they all build on each other and all really important. So I'm now going to explain the fascinating way that a healthy immune system actually suppresses itself and how this relates to autoimmune diseases. Like I said, very few people know this, including most of my colleagues. When we are exposed to an infectious agent, say a parasite, or when we're exposed to a petrochemical, a food additive, an allergen, which an allergen is something like pollen or dust, something that causes an allergy, or mold, or an environmental toxin, or like glyphosate or something, and other toxic substances like GMO foods, for example, our immune systems react to all that stuff. That's normal. It's supposed to do that. Our immune systems react to stuff that's actually good for us. So if I eat some asparagus, my immune system will react to that. That's just what it does. That's normal. And when the immune system reacts, it goes through what are called TH cells. The T refers to the thymus gland. That's the gland where these TH cells come from. The H refers to specific T cells called helper T cells. And as that name implies, helper cells help the immune system to operate properly. So these TH cells are absolutely critical for proper immune system functioning. It turns out that we have two basic TH cells. One is TH1 cells, the other is TH2 cells, TH1, TH2. When it comes to small exposures, the kind of thing you would get on a fly or being around somebody with the virus, but not getting too terribly close to them and so forth and so on. So when it comes to a small exposure to any infectious agent, for example, or any other agent, an allergen or a chemical or whatever, the TH1 cells are activated. That's a good thing because the TH1 system is the one that kills viral infections. It also kills intracellular parasites like tuberculosis and mycobacterium and leishmania, for example. And also, the TH1 system is the system that kills cancer cells. So that's a pretty important system. The difference between these two systems is that the TH1 system uses cells to kill infections and cancer, whereas the TH2 system doesn't use cells. And it's unable to kill cells because all it uses is antibodies. And antibodies can't kill cells. So the viruses live in the cell, bacteria can live in the cell, they can hide in that cell, and they're immune to antibodies. That's important because antibodies cannot kill bacteria, viruses or parasites like tuberculosis when they're hiding inside cells. Only the cells produced by the TH1 system can kill or eliminate these bacteria that are hiding in the cells. Therefore, an adequate TH1 immune system is a must for fighting infections and preventing cancer. Now, you might ask, well, how's this got anything to do with autoimmune diseases? It's got everything to do, and you can learn about that in a sec. The TH1 cells, by the way, the cells that are induced by the TH1 system, you probably heard of natural killer cells or NK cells. That's all coming from the TH1 system. Also, CD8 cytotoxic cells, another important cells, part of that TH1 system. They're all part of that. The TH1 system go by the name natural killer cells and CD8 cytotoxic cells. On the other hand, when it comes to large exposures of bacteria or viruses or molds or petrochemicals, intestinal parasites, the TH2 system now becomes activated. So small exposures, the TH1, large exposures, the TH2. Unlike the TH1 system, the TH2 system produces antibodies. It is the antibodies that are produced by the TH2 system that cause autoimmune diseases. So when the TH1 system is working, it's not making antibodies. It's the TH2 system that makes the antibodies that lead to all these autoimmune diseases. By the way, when it comes to checking to see if you've got an autoimmune disease, what do we look at? We look at whether or not you're making antibodies to the various organs. So this is all an antibody problem. It is the antibodies produced by the TH2 systems that lead to autoimmune diseases. Now remember that. because in my next post, I'm going to explain how it is that when the TH1 system is activated, again, by small amounts of bacteria, okay, it suppresses the TH2 system, decreases the amount of antibodies made by the TH2 system, and hence prevents autoimmune reactions. So hang with me and check out the next post, because now we're going to tie all this together and see how it reacts with autoimmune diseases.